I'm John Williams. I'm live in Wallowa County. I was a retired extension agent. I'm currently the Eastern Oregon chair of the Oregon Cattlemen's Wolf Committee, and been working with wolves since actually 1996 when they came out and were delisted. Some of the ranchers in Wallowa County came to me and said, "I think we're going to have a problem."
So John, this is Todd Nash, I'm president of the Oregon Cattlemen's Association. I'm off screen here, and I'm going to ask you a few questions. The first question is, if somebody for the first time goes out in a pasture, they see a dead animal there and suspect maybe it's wolves, or don't even know what the cause of death is, but maybe they know wolves are in the area, what's the first thing they should do?
Well, there's several things, but first is you need to call and get ODF&W engaged to come out and do an investigation. And that might mean that you get a hold of ODF&W themselves, but we've been recommending all along that they get a hold of the sheriff's office. And if you live in a county where they haven't discussed the sheriff with the sheriff yet, you should do that before you find that carcass, to make sure that the sheriff understands that there's probably one phone call that will always have somebody answer it, and that's the dispatcher. And so you get a hold of the sheriff's office 24/7 and make sure that they know to get a hold of the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife biologist and get an investigation coming your direction. That's the first thing. The second thing is, don't contaminate the site. They say when you investigate wolves or depredation issues, maybe half of the information might well come from the site itself instead of the carcass. So we're looking at tracks, hair, guts, blood, any disturbance. So consider that when you're walking around. Consider that when you're investigating it yourself, trying to decide what to do. But don't step on tracks. Don't step on any evidence that might be out there. Don't step on the soft dirt where there might be some evidence available. The other is make sure that you are preserving the carcass itself. One of the biggest problems we have is birds, and the birds tend to peck away and eat up all the evidence, and they'll do it rather quickly if you have to go somewhere. So try to cover the carcass if you can. If it isn't too cold, leave your coat or blanket or tarp or whatever you might have. If you don't, then you live with it. Make sure that you don't step on something while you're getting in and out. Don't let your dogs run around and make dog tracks so that they might be mistaken for what the predator was. Mostly, make sure that what you see is what you're going to be able to turn over to the investigator.
And John, on that, we talked about carcasses, but are you always seeing a dead animal?
You don't. A lot of times the first thing you see is birds, and you'll see crows and magpies and column of birds up in the air. You might be quite a ways away, and if you see that, you probably know that something's dead down there, and you go to investigate it. The other thing is you might see wolf tracks. You might be looking then for something more that might show up. You also may find just a small piece of the carcass. One carcass, Todd, years ago, all that was left was the hindquarter of a small calf, and that was enough actually to confirm that wolf kill. But it might be hair, it might be part of the carcass, it might be blood, or like I said, birds, whatever that might give you an indication something's going on down there.
Yeah, and a live animal that is maybe limping or showing some evidence, what do you look for there?
Okay, well, there are certain places that wolves like to attack. They like to go into the flank, into the tail head, into the anus area, sometimes in behind the shoulder. Those are places where you might see injuries, particularly where they might be hamstringing them inside the legs, like I said, in the flank, where they've run and they've grabbed a hold of them and ripped holes open. So if you see any of that, that's a really good indication that that's probably, well, it's a predator. Could well be a wolf.
Okay. And what should you expect during the investigation? Once the sheriff is called, or you got a hold of ODF&W or Wildlife Services, whatever agency is going to come out to help you investigate, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, what should you expect?
Well, first off, it's going to take some time, and you need to be there. If you can't be there, get a hold of somebody that you trust to be there. A friend, a hired man, neighbor, or if you've made arrangements with somebody in the stock growers that might be willing to go out with them. But make sure that there's somebody there that's kind of representing your sites. We also need to look at how long it's going to take. Figure out how far you are from town. Realize that those people are in their lives, and many times it's not 8 to 5 in the morning. During the day, they have to gather up their tools and so forth, and then travel out there. Find the time when they can be there, and then it's going to take 2 to 3 hours to look at that carcass, look at the evidence that's around, ask you some questions, and try to gather up the evidence that they're going to need to try to figure out what to do, whether they're going to make this a wolf kill or not. That's also, you need to realize that they're going to take a lot of pictures of the carcass, of damage or of the injury if the animal's not dead. And then also you need to recognize they're going to skin it, and they're going to skin if it's not dead, if it's dead, and they're going to take their time, write notes, take evidence, search the area. You can help them search the area, look for anything that might show what the predator was that killed it. And again, I've been out on investigations that from when I left home till I got home was 5 or 6 hours.
Okay. And then once you maybe in your own mind as a producer, there's enough evidence there that you conclude it's a wolf, what can you expect the department to come back with, and how long might it take them? Say you would have an investigation on a Thursday or Friday evening. When can you expect them to come back and tell you what that was?
That's, that time, that's not usually a short time frame. They're going to go home, write up the report. They've got to send that report off to other people. Then the investigator and those people have to get together, either by Zoom or phone call or somehow, and then they'll get a decision on what it is. I say that it's probably the anomaly if it's less than 2 days. Probably if it's over a weekend, that's 2 working days. So if it's on a Thursday or a Friday, you'd be middle of the next week before you might hear. You'd be in hopes that it'd be quicker than that. Sometimes it is, and sometimes I've heard within a day and a half, but I've also seen where it's 5 or 6 days before a decision comes out.
Okay. Lastly, and we could talk about wolves all day, and we've oftentimes done that, but to keep this on task and to a limited time and keep people's attention, describe the 2 different portions of Oregon, the federally listed and the phase 3 in Oregon.
Okay, so the Oregon is split down the line that starts in Umatilla. Highway 395 goes down to Burns and goes over to, I don't remember which number it is, 97 and 78, but it's down to Burns Junction and then over to Winnemucca, down to Winnemucca. If you're east of that, you're in phase 3. They call that the management phase. That's when there are less restrictions. It takes only 2 wolf kills out of a certain pack, a group of wolves, within 9 months before they can go to lethal control. They can go to lethal control. They're delisted state and federally in that area. West of that line, they're still in phase 1 because they haven't had at least 4 breeding pairs in 3 years consecutively. And that's Worse than that is that in last September, they were relisted back onto the Endangered Species Act for the federal government, which means that there's not going to be any lethal control, and you, in essence, cannot harm those animals, even if they're getting into your livestock. So pretty much hands off west of Highway 395 in that line.
And so is there any scenario in which you can take lethal action on the federally listed side?
Human safety.
Self-defense.
You can protect yourself and the people around you, and understand that you can't stretch that. That's if it's not imminent danger, they're going to investigate that very harshly. But you can protect yourself and the people that are with you. Beyond that, you can't protect your livestock, can't protect your private property. You can't protect anything.
And so, and I said lastly a little bit ago, but for people that are just starting to get wolves in their area, are there things that they can do to help mitigate this issue up front?
Well, prepare for finding either a wolf carcass, or the first thing you're probably going to see is tracks and so forth. Maybe somebody with a trail camera that's going to have a picture. At that point, in my mind, you need to get a hold of your sheriff, and you need to make those arrangements so that you can use the dispatcher on a 24/7 basis, and they will know who to call when a rancher calls in, or anyone calls in and says, I think I have a wolf and a carcass that might have been killed by a wolf. The second thing is get a hold of your county and whoever runs your landfill, and make sure that the landfill that they have can receive carcasses. That's a process that they have to go through so that they legally can accept a carcass, because we've found it effective in our community that the commissioners have opened up the landfill so that if you have a dead carcass, whether it's wolf kill or not, if you're calving problem, a calf or a cow or whatever, you can take it to the landfill and drop it off without having to pay for it, and then that's covered through the non-lethal part of it. But that helps us being able to not leave carcasses around and attract the wolves. But those are two things that I strongly suggest you do prior to the wolves actually becoming an issue in your community.
Okay. Well, John, thank you for your time. And again, we could talk about this for a very extended period of time. If there are further questions for you, is there a way that they can get a hold of you through Oregon Cattlemen's?
Sure, they can get a hold of the Oregon Cattlemen's. You can email me. My email is osuwilliams@gmail.com. Or they can call, that's fine, 541-263-0485. I'd be more than happy to talk with people and try to help them with their wolf issues.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate all your work.
Thank you. Good luck.